What's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I want to talk about how the more spiritually adept you become, the more spiritual strength that you gain, the more spiritual warfare you might have to deal with, okay? Now, just like the Archangel Michael or Christ, right? They were very, well, obviously, Archangel Michael was an angel, but the Most High put him in position to be able to battle the Satan, who was on the left-hand side, or on the bad side, the most powerful angel, correct? And we know that Christ had to deal with Satan, okay? I think when he took him up, or I believe when he took him up on a mountain and offered him the world, you know what I mean? That was spiritual temptation. And we always are being tempted, okay, guys? And you can be tempted in different ways depending on where you at. So if you are more three-dimensional of the world, if you're not that spiritually adept and you're more mundane, Satan can entice you with gifts. He can entice you with money, power, all these types of things, these more so mundane three-dimensional things that many of us seek, right? But when you become more spiritually adept and you're more aware of those tactics and those ways that Satan may use things in order to engulf you or entice you in your carnal spiritual nature, right? The more you realize that the more that is less likely to be able to have an effect on you, okay? Now, what happens is the more spiritual that you become, the more that you might be attacked in different ways, such as more spiritual ways, more psychic ways sometimes. So a lot of times for a lot of you guys, when you are experiencing things like depression, okay, when you have negative thoughts, all right, a lot of times these aren't just, see, when you are thinking of things from a mundane perspective, a 3D, a physical perspective, then you could think that these are just things that just happens. You know, you just happen to feel depressed. You just happen to feel sad. You just happen to feel anger, boredom, discontentment, all these types of things, right? But a lot of times these are psychic attacks that come from, ultimately, I guess you could say, Satan, or a lower nature, or a more negative energy, okay? A demonic energy, okay? I guess you could say. But the thing is, you have to remember, guys, that if you have had certain spiritual experiences already, all right, and for example, on the flip side, if you have felt bliss before, if you have felt euphoria before, okay, if you have been manic before, okay, these are all also spiritual emotions and feelings as well. See, everything is spiritual, okay? Everything is spiritual. So when you experience different emotions, it's all spiritual energy. It's all energy, okay? But obviously, when you experience energies that make you feel good, then you can say that's of a higher frequency, a higher nature, okay? You're in a good space. When you experience energies that make you feel bad, depression, sadness, despair, those are all negative energies, okay, and negative influences. And look at it as these influences always being around you, okay? You can call them, some of you guys call them demons if they're things that makes you feel bad. Some of you guys call them angels if they're things that make you feel good, if you feel like you're in a space of feeling good, okay? At the end of the day, it's all influences, okay? Now, when you have had these positive influences and these positive feelings, then once you have had those experiences, like I said, mania, for example, some of you guys who who are considered bipolar, a lot of you spiritual people who are considered bipolar, schizophrenic, things like that, those are the 3D mundane ways of tagging and categorizing certain experiences and certain effects that spirituality has on your mundane three-dimensional life. But once you experience these things, then you know and you understand what is possible, and that there's other realms and other frequencies and other dimensions and things of this nature that interact and intermingle with what we consider the normal, mundane, everyday, three-dimensional world that we mostly live in. Most of the time, most of us, okay? But once you are aware of this, okay, and you have certain experiences, then at the same time, you are now in a position, you have more spiritual responsibility from the Most High. Why? Because once you have certain doors opened up to you, okay? Once you have certain ways of seeing things, once you have had certain experiences, okay, then you know what is possible, all right? You can say you've been chosen to know, to have a different or more broader awareness, if that makes sense, all right? So you have a responsibility now. The thing is, we know that with these experiences, they don't last as long, okay? So we're still here. We still have something to do on this dimension, I presume, and maybe that's why these things don't last. But the way I look at it is perhaps you have reached a certain level where certain doors were opened up to you so you can have the experience of it, so you can know what's possible. And it also serves as, in my opinion, it serves as like a relay, or not a relay, I'm sorry, but like a break. If let's say if you were running a marathon, and if any of you guys who have experience with running marathons, you know that every so often, every few miles or whatever, you have these little break stations where you can get some water, maybe get a bar, and get some carbs to get your energy, keep your energy levels up so you can make it through the whole race. All right? And you can look at what I'm speaking of right now as that, like, you can look at those manic spiritual experiences where you feel that euphoria, that heaven-like feeling. You guys who experience this know what I'm talking about. Who've had these breakthroughs, whatever you want to call it, it's whatever you want to call it. But for those of you who have had these breakthroughs and experienced these things, you know what I'm talking about. And it serves as like, you almost wish that you can live in that realm or that space forever. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie, it's depressing when you come back to with I guess you could say normal people would say your right mind. You know what I mean? It's depressing because once you have these certain experiences, you want to stay there. You want to stay in that space. Once you have that breakthrough and you got that, what I would call, you got that shine, you are on a level and experiencing something that the average person in this body, in these meat suits, cannot experience. You know what I mean? Or haven't experienced. You know what I mean? You don't wanna go back. You know what I mean? You don't wanna come back to the boring, mundane, 3D reality anymore. It does make it harder from day to day to just keep living like that once you have certain experiences. You know what I mean? It's like anything you can think of when you have the funnest time of your life. Oh, for example, for those of you who work 9 to 5s, right? How about you don't like your job? You know, you go to your job 5 days a week, 40 hours. 5 days a week, 40 hours a day. You know what I mean? And you don't like your job, but you're doing what you think you have to do. You know what I mean? But then you get your 3 weeks vacation once a year, and then you get to go to whatever place on the planet that you think is the most exonerating place on the planet. You know what I mean? Just wherever you go and you just experience the best time of your life for all 3 weeks. But then you know that you got to come back, and then you end up coming right back to your job, though. That's over. It's that type of feeling. You know what I mean? And what happens is, guys, when there's a lot going on in the spirit world, you can feel it in the 3D world. Some of you guys who are spiritual warriors and who are, like I said, for lack of better words, you could say chosen. You could say have something to do down here. You consider yourself a little different. All these types of things. When there's a lot going on in the spirit world, then there can be a lot going on in your life, but not necessarily physically. You know what I mean? You could be bored, but it could be psychic. It could be spiritual, okay? Now, what you have is, just like the Most High has his minions, okay? Satan has his minions too, okay? So you can have people, for example, I'm doing things like YouTube videos. I don't know who can get access to these videos. I'm aware that anyone can get access to these videos and see these videos and things like that. And you can't always let numbers fool you, okay? Some of you guys could be looking at this video and it only might say, it can only say 5 to 6 or 7 views, you know what I'm saying, at the time that you're watching it. You know what I mean? Some of you might be looking at this and it might say 5 to 6, 7,000. Some of you might be watching it, it might be 100,000 or 700,000, whatever. You know what I mean? Numbers can be deceiving, and what you allowed to see and hear may be different from what somebody else is allowed to see and hear. Things get tricky, all right? But the thing is, guys, what was I going? Exactly, it was something I was saying right before that, obviously. But anyway, to just keep going, and it'll come back around. In the spirit world, psychically, oh yeah, that's what it was, guys. You can have people who can be trying to attack you. You know what I mean? In many different ways that you don't even know, that you don't see, that you don't hear from, that you don't speak of. They might not speak of you, you know what I mean, to other people and things like that. It may be people watching you and listening to you and things of this nature that you might not be aware of, okay? And sometimes people can send negative energy your way. People can be doing negative energy work towards you, all types of things, guys, okay, to manipulate you. And when you're special, for example, somebody see this video, somebody could see what track I'm on, and they might not like that. You see what I mean? It could be something about me that burns them up. They might not like the way I talk. They might not like the way I look. They might not like where I'm at right now. They might not like what I'm drinking. Like it's things that you never know what may irritate other people and what people have going on in their mind and in their soul, and who they are. And sometimes we don't know who we are, and sometimes we don't understand why people might feel or think a certain way about us, because we might not fully understand who we are yet. You know what I mean? And then things start to make sense though when you do start to come around to the realization of who you are, what you are, and things like that. And you understand that it's spiritual warfare. It's always spiritual warfare. It's always spiritual warfare on different dimensions. And we all have a part to play and a role to play. Part of my role, part of warfare is like what I'm doing right now. Just speaking on certain content. Before you can change the world, I've said before you can change the world, before anything can happen physically, it has to happen on a spiritual plane first, or in the mental plane first. You know what I mean? Before you can go out and do anything that you want to do, you have to what? You have to think of it first. You have to be inspired. That's why Satan attacks your psyche, okay? Which in turn end up manipulating your emotions. So some people, if they're not adept, if they're not strong enough spiritually, just like in the physicality, in the physical world, if you're not strong enough to fight, then you can get beat to death or something. You know what I mean? In the spiritual world, a lot of times, many people day to day get defeated spiritually, okay? And some people commit suicide. Some people make decisions that ultimately is a slow death decision. Our world is, we're living in the end time. So our world is under a strong influence by Satan. That, but ultimately is all the Most High's work, and prophecy has to play out, and things have to happen a certain type of way, because it was written, and the Most High cannot lie. So the reason why things are going the way they're going right now is because it's the way it was written. And a lot of people can't accept that, and they don't like that. So they want to give all the glory. I don't even want to say that. I don't want to use that, but they want to give all the responsibility to Satan as to why things are going on, which gives Satan too much power. But Satan is doing what he's supposed to do based on what the Most High, the way that the book was written, or the story has been told, or the script has been written. Okay. And things like this, like I said, though, is part of it, guys. Because once you think of certain things and you speak of certain things, you listen to the Most High, you get your inspiration, you do the best at expressing it and putting it out to other people the best that you can, because there's somebody who has to hear it from you, or you may be the only source, or one of the only sources that somebody can go to draw inspiration. You know what I mean? This video right here might make someone feel better just by hearing it. You know what I mean? And things like that. And it may just give a perspective and a way of looking, and it might be something that somebody need to hear right now at this particular point in time. All right, and in the way that they need to hear it. But you just know that if you are a spiritual warrior, if you are of what you consider of the elect, I'm just trying to find different phrases and ways depending on what your beliefs are, ways of expressing those people who, without trying to sound arrogant or cocky about it or make people overinflate themselves, but if you do have a special gift or calling in your life to do whatever it is that you're supposed to do, and if that happens to be of a spiritual nature, because we all have different callings. Some of us are doing what we're supposed to do in the 3D world, you know what I mean, which is in relation to the spiritual world. Some of us are doing what we need to do in the spiritual world. It all depends on what gifts the Father has given you and what responsibilities the Father has given you. So with that said, some of you guys who are spiritually talented and gifted and have a spiritual responsibility, sometimes it is harder on you. You know what I mean? You're more sensitive and more empathic and more susceptible to psychic attacks, to demonic attacks, to spiritual attacks. Okay? And so this is just that reminder and that inspiration to stay strong. A lot of times when you are going through the attacks in this physical world and you can feel it psychically or spiritually, it's because a lot of times the Most High and the angels are kicking butt in the spiritual world. And it's like, I always like to think of it, and it feels like it's always a reminder to me, like when Satan is kicking and scratching, it's like a lot of times when something is about to die, you're gonna get that the biggest burst is gonna come from it right before it dies. You know what I mean? Like the biggest fight, or the most fight that it's gonna give, is gonna be right before it gives out altogether. And so a lot of you guys could be under a spiritual attack lately, or you just have those moments. But especially for a lot of you guys who are diagnosed with certain things, always refer back to and draw from those experiences of bliss, mania, and happiness, because it is coming permanently. You know what I mean? But we still got a job to do. You can't celebrate too early, as they say. Those breakthroughs will become more permanent and more often and more permanent. You know what I mean? But I believe that the reason that they happen a lot of times is in order for us to have those experiences so we can know what's possible. You know what I mean? You have those, because before I had certain breakthroughs, it just all seemed like a good idea, or something that, you know, sounded good, you know, in theory, but until you actually experience it, you realize it's possible. If I experienced this and felt this way for a certain amount of time, then it's possible. What needs to happen, though, for me to experience it all the time? And you have to leave, though, just like you wasn't necessarily aware or responsible for it happening when it happened spontaneously for the first time or the second time or the third time, whatever. You just got to trust in the Most High and keep doing your spiritual work, keep doing the things that you need to do as far as maintenance, you know what I mean? Taking care of yourself, eating right, exercising, being in spaces, you know, what that you that keeps you in a spiritually and mentally sound state, you know what I mean, a healthy state. You just got to do the best you can, you know what I mean? And it all comes back around. Hopefully this was a good video, guys. Peace.